This is episode 19 of a series that TJ and I have been doing on the Global Methodist Church's Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline, which of course is going to be augmented greatly this September at the Convening Conference for this denomination, of which I am an elder, and TJ is a lay member. Say hello, TJ.
Welcome, everybody.
TJ had big news that I'm going to tell because he doesn't want to brag on himself, but he has gotten himself a new bride-to-be. TJ, congratulations.
Yeah, that sounds weird. Thank you. Yeah.
Does it sound weird because I said it, or because it's just a weird
I guess
change?
I've never actually said it out loud. Fiance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, fiance, and you never get a fiance back. You just get a wife, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you. I'm very happy. I'm sure a number of people very happy. Becca is his to-be bride's name, and she's a lovely young lady, and we're excited to get y'all hitched and started on being a real man like me.
A real man. Okay. Yeah, it's one way to say it, I guess.
I hope it's clear. That's all in jest.
Sorry for all the singles out there, single men out there.
Yeah. I didn't mean it, single friends. All right. On that note, or a completely different note, we are beginning section 7 in the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline. This is on page, 82? Yeah.
82.
Yeah. And so they've updated this document several times. If you have an older version, you're going to want to upgrade. Go over to globalmethodist.org, go into the drop-down menu, go to Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline. It'll let you download the most recent version. It should be from this month of 2024.
Yeah, February 2024, I believe is what it was.
Yeah.
The last time we looked, it is. Yeah.
And I downloaded it right before we turned on the cameras. I haven't looked at this. This is all new to me. And TJ, did you do any research before?
No, I haven't looked at this at all.
Yeah.
The only difference between this and the one that you were looking at was weird sentence changes, I think. I think they added one sentence in the part that we went over in section 6.
Yeah, last week, and it was to do
difference.
with some different kinds of ordained clergy that it hadn't addressed in a previous version. So it wasn't significant, but I don't pretend to know how much things have changed. It's just good to have the updated version because that's what we're going to be entertaining when we come together in September. So anyway, this is what it looks like. That's paragraph 701 on connectional life. I'll start reading, and then we'll alternate between TJ and me. So anything else to plan on before we go forward?
Nope, let's get into it.
Paragraph 701, connectional life. Reflecting the shared mission of each of our congregations, connectional entities may be formed at the general, regional, and annual conference levels to effectively support the task of making disciples and spreading scriptural holiness. I can already tell you're going to love this, TJ. TJ loves forming additional bodies that are not explicitly stipulated thus far.
Yeah.
These organizations shall prioritize resourcing the work of local churches, functioning where possible, and through partnerships with existing ministries, congregations, annual conferences, and other bodies, rather than creating new structures. They may set standards and share best practices in adapting to fit the context and changing circumstances across the church and globe, while providing secure and reliable funding channels where appropriate. Connectional entities shall nonetheless be frugal with minimal structures and staff so as not to burden local congregations with extra financial demands, embodying the call of Jesus not to be served, but to serve. So, of course, this taps into an ethos in the GMC. It's begun with frugality and not wasting local church money. This is, of course, because coming out of the United Methodist Church, churches were often asked to give between 12 and 14% of their income to general church structure that often use their money in ways that local churches wouldn't like. So one solution to that is just don't take much of their money. Here it's talking about building additional structure. Well, but then it had some language in here that made me think it's not about new structures. It was sentence 2. These organizations shall prioritize resourcing the work of local churches, functioning where possible in and through partnerships with existing ministries rather than creating new structures. So that says to me there's going to be a preference for not building new stuff, but utilizing stuff that's already in place to get these jobs done. Did I read that right, you think?
I guess. It just seems like if it's not new stuff, why say, yeah, you can have existing stuff to do the work of the church. I don't know. It's just a weird, like, I guess it kind of makes sense if it's saying, hey, the annual conferences can create new organizations or connectional entities. I think it's just vague. I don't necessarily like it, but
It very
I guess
much
it makes
determines what
sense.
comes after, and we don't know what. Well, we know what comes immediately after. It's in Section 1. It goes to the Transitional Leadership Council. So, what is the Transitional Leadership Council? How does it how is it going to operate? Maybe we should do that, and then maybe come back and see what paragraph 701 really influences about this, or what the other. Well, it's not like I can't skip down and see other bodies referred to here, but it stays on the TLC for quite a while. Are you scrolling down?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all that it is. All this whole
and then it goes
section
right
is the
into
TLC.
A's. So
What?
we might get through 7 real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Today
Okay,
we
so
will get
this
through
is-
section 7.
But that paragraph makes it sound like it's not talking specifically about the transitional
Yes.
council. It's talking about, there could be other ones, but this is the only one we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think that's
Which I
probably
guess
the right
is
way to
fine.
read it.
I mean,
Yeah.
at some point, I'm sure they're going to have to come up with other organizations, or I'm sorry, connectional entities.
Yeah. You're being much more gracious about this today than you were last week when
I'm maybe in a better mood today. I don't know. Who knows?
we've got TJ in a good mood with us today, guys. This is a real treasure.
It's really, I don't care how vague it is, but I guess it's got to be vague.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
if it's going to be versatile and able to fulfill these needs that the structures in place can't fulfill, then yeah, you want to leave it vague.
And one of the things that jumped out at me was minimal staff and structure.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good, but that's really subjective. Like, who's determining what minimal is? Like,
Yeah,
that
I
might be
think
something different for.
They're just
each
establishing the cultural norm
Yeah,
here.
just make sure it's you that with that focus in mind, I guess. Is
Yeah.
What, okay.
Yeah,
Yep,
same with
fine.
frugality. One person's frugality is
Right.
another person's not frugality.
Excess.
Opulence. Yeah.
Okay, Section 1, Transitional Leadership Council. Paragraph 702, Purpose and Composition. During the period of transition between the legal formation of the Global Methodist Church and the effective date of actions taken by the Convening General Conference, the Transitional Leadership Council shall serve as the primary leadership body of the church. Okay, so I was just saying. So we have General Council, the TLC.
General Conference.
Yeah, General Conference. The TLC is going to be who's in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. As the most representative body other than the General Conference, it is charged with making all necessary decisions related to the forming of the Global Methodist Church. Its decisions are subject to approval, modification, or revocation by the convening General Conference and shall be in effect only until the effective date of permanent policies and procedures adopted by the convening General Conference that would replace them. Following the convening General Conference, the work of the Transitional Leadership Council shall be transitioned into the connectional entities established and formed by that body. So we're going to have General Council, or
Conference.
General Conference, and then all the policies, it says the Transitional Leadership Council will then become those other entities that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, I guess. Right.
I don't think so. I think the TLC is currently doing things here. I could be wrong. I think the TLC is currently doing things that we're going to want to continue. You know, one of the dysfunctions of the United Methodist Church was you could only do a lot of stuff when you were in session, and some of those bodies only met once every 4 years, which made it very sclerotic as an organization. So I wonder what the different proposals are for continued administration in between conference sessions. And they're talking about having General Conference only every 6 years instead of 4. So what is going to be responsive to changing needs on the ground, if not something like the TLC? I'm hoping that they have something like the TLC.
So wouldn't that take place of the like the Council of Bishops? Wouldn't it just be a kind of like what they do now? Bickerton just decides whatever he wants to do.
The Council of Bishops, to my understanding, in the United methodist Church was not supposed to ever operate the way that it currently is. It's executive overreach.
Okay.
So it's like I had a buddy in seminary who talked about how Abraham Lincoln was single-handedly responsible for the rise of the executive branch in America at the expense of the legislative and the judicial branches. And ever since then, things have been off balance. And that's essentially, and then if you don't agree with that, FDR did a lot that way. So that's essentially what the Council of Bishops has done in the UFC.
Instead of overreach, it's here's the power before you overreach it. That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Oh, well, so, yeah, maybe. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I guess maybe on the front end it's saying we're not going to have like this tripartite government representing our federal government. We're just going to have a strong executive and then it'll just be a different dynamic because the General Conference is still going to set the tone and the standards. And it says here that they can change anything the TLC does.
Right, but it's maybe every 6 years. So it's like how far is the TLC getting off course?
Yeah.
And the General Conference has to come back in 6 years and then fix all their stuff.
Yeah, I've just exposed. I have a strong predisposition towards a strong executive branch. Yeah. That's what John Wesley was. That's what Francis Asbury was. I think that's why the early Methodist Church did well. I like the idea of a capable, strong leadership board leading the way. But yeah, that depends on making sure that the people
depends on who's in charge of it.
Yeah.
Could be good, could be bad.
Yes.
Which I guess whatever.
There's going
to be problems with anything, so.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It goes on, so why don't you keep going?
Yeah, 2. The Transitional Leadership Council was formed out of a meeting held in Atlanta, Georgia on March 2nd through the 4th of 2020. Its 17 members consisted of 3 retired bishops, 1 from Africa, and 14 clergy and laity. So is that 14 clergy and 14 laity? Do you have any idea? Or is
I don't think so.
A mixture.
I think it's just saying it's a mixture because it was a total of 17, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I guess it was. But yeah. Interesting that they didn't lay that out. How many were clergy and how many were laity?
Mm-hmm.
Representing some transitional renewal groups as well as non-aligned traditionalists. Non-Episcopal members included 1 person each from Africa, Europe/Eurasia, and the Philippines. Its members also represent racial diversity with African American, Hispanic, Latino, and Asian American members. This group is empowered to act as the governing body for the establishment of the Global Methodist Church. Anything with that? You have to.
I think they included it just so that it's making clear from the very beginning this has not been an American-centered mentality, but it's included voices from around the globe, just kind of establishing its street cred, I guess.
Yeah, I'm fine with I'm not going to get into it. Anyways. Okay. 3, any bishop, active or senior, who transfers to the church under the provisions of paragraph 516 shall be added to the membership of the Transitional Leadership Council. Bishops who serve on the Transitional Leadership Council are expected to take an active role in helping govern the church, including oversight responsibilities in annual conferences as needed during the transition. For each bishop added to the Transitional Leadership Council, the Transitional Leadership Council shall also elect by majority vote 2 additional clergy or lay members, broadening the diversity and representation of the body. So as soon as we get as soon as they elect a new bishop, they add 2 either clergy or laity. It doesn't say one clergy, one laity. It's just, I guess, whoever's available. I don't know how they're determining that.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by this. I think, okay, so surely a bishop would be considered clergy. So then they would just add a lay member to balance that clergy? Did I read that wrong? Okay, what did you get? Explain it again.
In my head, they're separating the bishop. So you come on as a bishop, we're going to elect 2 more people to put on the council. They can be 2 laity or 2 clergy or 1 of each. It doesn't specify.
To put on the TLC.
Yeah,
so the TLC's composed in response to how many bishops there are. That was point 3. I have to look at that again. That would be strange. Any bishop. Where was that?
3. Any bishop, active or senior, who transfers to the church under the provisions of paragraph 516 shall be added to the membership of the Transitional Leadership
Yeah, they get put
Council.
on the TLC directly. The bishop does. Okay, but then they add 2 more people. Is that what you read?
Yeah.
Bishops who serve on the TLC are expected to take an active role in helping to govern the church.
For each bishop added to the Transitional Leadership Council, the Transitional Leadership Council shall also elect by majority vote 2 additional clergy or lay members.
That's where, okay, I zoned out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
So it started out with 17. Was that with 2 bishops? Who knows? I don't remember. Now we've got more, obviously, because
we've got Bishop Emeritus, but we still only have 2 active bishops.
I assume those were senior
what?
bishops, active or senior.
Yeah, so these are, does it say active or senior?
Yeah.
Man, I'm not paying attention today. Active or senior, right there. Okay, so would senior be emeritus?
I would think so.
Yeah, I just don't know why they wouldn't say emeritus. So active or, okay. So all bishops, active or senior, sit on the TLC, and for each one of them, there should be 2 reps, either lay or clergy.
Yeah, but it sounds like there's 14 other plus. So 14, so 14 bishop and clergy, so I guess that's 3 more.
Clergy and laity, but...
Well, they had 3 bishops to begin with.
Did they?
It sounds like, yeah. So because there were 17 members. Yeah.
They had Scott Jones, Mark Webb, and the other one that consecrated me.
Yeah, he was literally there.
He's a really nice guy.
Oh, no, he was great. Yeah, he actually preached.
Forgive me for forgetting your name, Bishop. I'm tired. All right, let's do point 4.
I was going to look it up. Are you going to look it up?
The Transitional Leadership Council?
No, the bishop that we forgot.
Well, how about I do this? I looked up the TLC just so we could see who's currently on there.
You bring that up. Let me finish 4 because 4 is real short.
Okay. Go ahead.
The members of the Transitional Leadership Council shall serve until that body is disbanded under the provisions of the Convening General Conference. So if they're wanting to keep that, they're going to have to put some kind of legislation in front of it.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know what the plan is there. All right. So here is the current TLC. You can find this at globalmethodist.org. Following persons serve as members of the Transitional Leadership Council of the Global Methodist Church. Keith Boyette should be no surprise to anybody. Arturo Kadar, Kimba Evariste, Crystal Gold, Jeff Greenway, Jay Hansen, Leah Hitty Gregory, Bishop Scott Jones, Andrei Kim, he's from Russia, Jessica Legrone,
Mike Lowry.
That's who we forget. Sorry, Bishop Lowry. Patricia Miller, Martin Nicholas, Kara Nicholas, no relation, different last name. K1 Kevin Ryu, Gideon Salatan, Esquire, Bartholomew D. Sapal, Stephen Taylor, Daniel Topolsky, David Watson, Mark Webb, and they don't have a picture for Basil Yola Yayuba, but he's from Nigeria. Did you count how many there were there? 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 21, 22. That's how many currently sit on the TLC.
So it started at 17, now we're up to 22.
Yeah. All right. So that was the conclusion of the opening paragraphs of the 700s on the TLC. So the next section is responsibilities and authority.
Yeah. So 702 is purpose and composition. So this is their responsibilities.
All right. Okay. Let me do that one. Paragraph 703. The TLC is empowered to make all necessary decisions related to the forming and initial operating of the Global Methodist Church until the effective date of legislation adopted by the Convening General Conference. The TLC may form transitional bodies and assign to those bodies authority and responsibility for aspects of the church's work and the transitional process. Such transitional bodies remain amenable to the TLC, and their decisions are reviewable by the TLC. All right, so that sets just the basic power dynamics here. They are the one governing body, really, and then any other governing bodies report to them until the convening conference. Point 2, specific responsibilities. The responsibilities of the TLC include but are not limited to A, promote knowledge of and allegiance to, what a word to use, I think I like it, Wesleyan doctrine and moral teaching as reflected in the doctrinal and social witness statements in parts 1 and 2 of this transitional book of Doctrines and Discipline. Seems obvious, okay. B, act as the legal incorporating body and establish the transitional polity of the Global Methodist Church. This is actually a much bigger deal than it sounds like. There's a lot of work involved in licensing the GMC to operate in different countries around the world. There's been a ton of effort put in, mostly by Keith Boyette that I'm aware of, to make the GMC a legal entity around the world. Point C, oversee the receiving of local congregations into the GMC under the provisions of paragraph 355. D, form groups of such local churches into districts and annual conferences under the provisions of paragraph 355. I always wondered how it was they decided, okay, in the U.S. you have to have so many churches on board in order to form a conference. It's clearly not the case in forming the annual conference in Spain or Bulgaria, and it seems to me that this is the provision that says they can set different rules for different regions.
Did they set a specific number for the U.S.?
Yeah. So I sat on the TCAT for the Heartland, and they set benchmarks for us. We're essentially saying you're not going to be considered a provisional annual conference until you get so many churches on board.
Okay, in which case we had to add Oklahoma and Kansas and Nebraska?
Colorado, not Nebraska.
Okay, there's 4 of them, though. Is it Missouri?
Yeah, Missouri, yeah.
Okay, so Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado.
Yeah. So,
and I don't know how many churches we've got in all of those.
If I were a responsible TCAT member, I could tell you that.
Yeah.
I just know you can go to the heartlandgmc.org. I think that's the website, and there's a map. You can go on there and see all the churches and count them up if you want.
Yeah, that's on them. I was going to look it up.
I would say it's like 150, 160.
Okay.
I could be way off.
Okay, the point being that TLC can decide that number.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Exactly, yeah. Point E, approve the reception of bishops, active and retired, into the Global Methodist Church. F, form episcopal areas and determine their boundaries, determine the number of interim bishops and assign them to episcopal areas. So if you're curious how all these decisions have been made, it's this crew. This crew sits down with the map and the different players they're working with, and they draw the lines and decide these things. G, oversee receiving of clergy transferring into the GMC under the provisions of paragraph 419, which we've already covered. Serve as the appellate body for contested decisions. So I didn't realize they were doing this, but apparently you can contest a decision and the TLC will consider it. H, assign regional or annual conference bodies the responsibility for evaluating the status of licensed local pastors and candidates for ordained ministry to determine their status in the Global Methodist Church and serve as the appellate body for contested decisions. Sorry, I'm just looking this over a little bit more. Just giving them responsibility. I don't know why that's in there. Surely it talked about how annual conferences had that responsibility already up above, right?
Probably. I don't remember.
Okay. Point J, appoint a provisional ecclesiastical endorsing board to provide denominational endorsement to persons in specialized ministry that requires such. So, example, military or hospital chaplaincy. J, establish a connectional fund for ministerial education and oversee its collection and distribution. We've already talked about this. It seemed to me that they allowed for the creation of a fund that's just for educating clergy. And so I talked to Jeff Pospisil about that, and he said, It hadn't been set up yet, but we'll set it up now. And so if you want to give just to that fund, then you can earmark that and send it to Jeff Pospisil. Okay, oversee the appointment of clergy through its bishops.
Not specifically to Jeff Pospisil, but the GMC.
Oh, yeah, don't write Jeff Pospisil a personal check. I'm sure he would put it where it needs to go, but don't put him in that position. Yeah, just write it to the GMC and earmark it. Thank you, TJ. Point L, facilitate a process for the transfer of clergy from one annual conference to another, as well as for moving clergy to parts of the nation or world where they are most needed. So I think I'm right in discerning the TLC is responsible for all appointments around the connection.
Before the general conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be so stressful.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Point M, determine the compensation of bishops. N.
Well, before you go on, now that their annual conference is set up, I assume that they're taking charge of that.
Of paying bishops?
No, of like determining what clergy come in.
Surely the bulk of the work is done. Yes. Yeah, sure. I know that Jordan McFall is looking at all this stuff and the Board of Ministry, so I would find it very odd if TLC was very hands-on with that.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff is stuff that we've already went over that said annual conferences are in charge of that, but there's a period of time whenever these annual conferences didn't exist, and now that some of them exist, so...
That makes sense. I think that's a much more rational... Surely they were not doing... I mean, at this point, it's thousands of clergy. Surely they're not doing... Okay.
So I assume a lot of these responsibilities are taken over by annual conferences.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a safe assumption. All right, we were at point N. The TLC shall establish the time and place of meeting for the convening general conference, appoint the necessary committees to organize the logistics of the event. Of course, they've done this. O, determine the number of delegates for the convening general conference and the formula for their allocation to the various annual conferences. I feel like we covered something in the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline that tried to do this, but of course the TLC was given authority to change how that was done, and that authority is given here. P, appoint an interim secretary of the convening general conference to administer the petition process and other non-logistical matters related to the convening conference. Nominate a convening general conference secretary for approval by the convening conference. They thought of everything here. There isn't anybody going to say, TLC, you don't have that authority, because they've spelled out all the details.
They put all the stuff in, for sure.
We're at Q now, aren't we? Yeah. Establish guidelines for the publication and the online availability of both proposals and petitions to the convening general conference and completed actions of the conference. R, form such interim commissions and other general church entities as it judges necessary to begin implementing the polity and mission of the Global Methodist Church. S, hire necessary staff to accomplish the work of the general church, including the work of any interim commissions, or other transitional general church entities. T, established connectional funding for the general church during the transition, create a system for receiving and dispersing funds given, and ensure fiscal accountability and integrity in all handling of church funds. And finally, U, implement the accountability processes required in Part 8, which we haven't gotten to yet, and the judicial practice and procedure rules. I haven't seen these. Approve any involuntary status change of a bishop by a 2/3 vote. So that's a lot of nitty-gritty, but if you don't spell that out, you have disorder. So to my knowledge, the TLC's done a fantastic job at all these things. I'm really glad they're in place, and we're not living in the Wild West.
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing just makes sense. They've got to do stuff. Here's all the stuff they can do.
The only thing I would... It still requires on just trusting them, right? So there's not... This is what I've imagined my function potentially to be, is a transparent reporting mechanism by the TLC and following bodies where they just say, we have given ourselves at this point authority to take and spend money as we see fit. Here's what we've done. Here's a report on what we've done with this trust that you've given us. If they don't do that, then there can't help but be suspicion that these people who came out of the UMC are going to behave in the same way as the UMC and hire unnecessary staff and give authority to bureaucrats and all this. So that would be my only exhortation. Apparently, TLC members watch this. They know what I say. I just think, I'm sure I'm a broken record about this stuff, but I think regular, transparent reporting is pretty key to maintaining the trust that is asked and needed to maintain this structure. All right, anything else to say before we go on to... Okay.
I don't think so.
Section 2, go ahead.
704, purpose and composition. Number 1, purpose.
Well, wait, you didn't say this is for transitional connectional commissions.
Which I don't know what those are.
This
Section
would be,
2.
I think, any bodies that the TLC builds for good governance before the convening conference.
That is not the Transitional Leadership Council
Right.
themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Section 2, Transitional Connectional Commissions. Paragraph 704, purpose and composition. Number 1, purpose. During the period of transition between the adoption of this transitional book of doctrines and discipline by the Transitional Leadership Council and the effective date of actions taken by the convening General Conference, the Transitional Leadership Council may appoint transitional connectional commissions to begin the work or organizing and administering the connectional ministries of the denomination.
I think that was supposed to be of, not or, to begin the
Did I
work
say
of organizing and administering the connectional
Okay,
ministries.
thank you. The Transitional Leadership Council shall define the scope of work for any commission so formed and shall have the right of final approval of any policies or actions recommended by a commission. These decisions are subject to approval, modification, or revocation by the convening General Conference and shall be in effect only until the convening General Conference establishes permanent policies and procedures that would replace them. Following the convening General Conference, the work of the Transitional Connectional Commissions shall be transitioned into the Connectional Commissions established and formed by that body. So all the groups are under the Transitional Leadership Council. The Transitional Leadership Council gets to determine everything that they do. And then the General Conference just decides whether those are going to continue forward or not.
That's what I got out of it, yeah.
Okay. 2, membership. The Transitional Leadership Council shall determine the number of members for any transitional commission it establishes. The Transitional Leadership Council shall elect members for each commission by majority vote based on the expertise and gifts that they bring to the tasks of a commission. Care shall be taken to include persons from a broad range of racial, ethnic, tribal, gender, economic, and age characteristics. All potential geographical regions of the denomination should be represented. No person may serve simultaneously on more than one transitional commission. Commission members, including the officers, shall serve without remuneration.
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 That's payment.
They shall serve without payment. So
Yeah.
these are voluntary-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Travel and meeting expenses shall be paid for commission members by the Transitional Leadership Council out of general church funds. So it says they can't be on simultaneous commissions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they can be on the council and on a commission at the same time.
It doesn't explicitly address that. My concern with that would be if all of our ministries are connected, I want people who serve on multiple commissions to connect the work that one group is doing with the other so they're not falling all over each other. But surely there's some, I mean, I would really like it if there's some kind of rule that like bishops can attend all meetings or TLC members can attend all meetings, but I don't see anything like that.
No, I don't know.
Surely it's working perfectly.
Yeah, no, you don't know if any of these have been created yet, and if so, what they are at all.
No, they definitely have. Like, there's the Episcopal Task Force that I already told people about. That would be part of this, I think.
Okay.
And I think Karen Nicholas sent me a list of them. There were 3 or 4 others at that time. They might have created more sense.
Okay. So not a ton.
No, but probably she sent me the list of all the people on them, and that was at least 40 people. So depending on the decisions they're making, these are very influential.
Okay. 3, leadership. The Transitional Leadership Council shall name the chair of each transitional commission. The commission shall elect a secretary and may elect other officers to facilitate its work. No bishop may serve as the chair of a commission while serving in the episcopal office. Each transitional commission shall have one bishop selected by the Transitional Leadership Council, serving with voice and vote to help maintain communication and coordination with the bishops and to provide spiritual leadership to the commission. So the commissions have a secretary, possibly other officers. Well, definitely other officers because they say there's a chair, but the bishop can't be the chair.
But so each bishop is on the TLC,
Right.
and they can serve on these commissions.
Okay, so people on the TLC. Okay, that's what that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Whether they could be on there, and obviously they can be on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so 4, staff. Transitional Leadership Council may approve the hiring of staff positions to resource the
Persons.
staff persons to resource the work of the transitional commissions, paid for out of the general church funds. The chair of the Transitional Leadership Council shall make all hiring decisions and recommended compensation levels to the Transitional Leadership Council for approval. Okay, so the people on the council themselves don't get paid, but they can hire staff that do get paid.
Yeah.
And their pay is determined by the council.
Yeah. It's not clear here. Surely they have to participate in the meetings, don't you think?
The staff?
Yeah.
I
If their
would
purpose
assume
is
so.
to enact the will of that body, then surely they have to serve on that body. Maybe not without a voice or vote, but at least to be present. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Oh, yeah, I would like to see, get a look inside on one of these commissions and see how they're set up and what they're doing and how many staff they've got, or just as like an example.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah. I'll look around on the website after this, but I've looked around before. I don't think they have that information on the website.
Probably not. You'd probably have to get a hold of it. It's probably not something that somebody's just going to throw out there. Like, this is all happening so fast that I feel like their websites are probably just not up to date.
They did recently add Jeff Pospisil finally to the website.
Did they?
Yeah.
I wonder, you don't know who's in charge of all that. I guess we've got a communication.
I'm sure I've been told who it is, but no, I don't know who it is. It's not one of the big names.
Yeah. It's okay.
I'm sorry, person that is responsible. I said you don't have a big name. I'm sure you do. That wasn't meant as an insult. I just meant it's not Keith Boyette.
Yeah. I mean, it might be somebody that's not paid, and that's understandable that it's not completely up to date. So
yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
That's not your full-time job. Not bashing on you. 5, non-discrimination. The Global Methodist Church is committed to open and fair processes in its commissions and institutions, including in the hiring, retention, compensation, promotion, and retirement of staff. There shall be no discrimination on the basis of gender, race, color, national origin, disability, current or potential pregnancy, or chronic or potentially terminal illnesses, provided that the individual is able to adequately discharge the duties assigned to her or him. As a part of our witness, individuals employed by the church shall subscribe to the doctrines and moral standards of the Global Methodist Church and give evidence of the same in their life and ministry, including faithfulness in marriage, understood to be between one man and one woman, or chastity in singleness. I have no pushback there. Sounds good.
I guess they just have to have that somewhere, and that's where they have it. So
Yeah, that just seems like a legal, hey, we're not going to discriminate on all of these things.
Yep. All right, we're at paragraph 705 now, potential transitional connectional commissions. The Transitional Leadership Council may form transitional commissions dealing with any or all of these tasks or areas of ministry. 1, evangelism, missions, and church planting, including but not limited to fostering cross-cultural and international partnerships between local churches, districts, and annual conferences, vetting, approving, and maintaining accountability for mission projects and their funding, providing for disaster relief and refugee ministry, identifying and providing resources for church planting in various cultural contexts, and consulting with bishops, annual conference leaders, and local churches to plan and strategize for planting churches. So this is not mandatory things. This is just things they can form if they want to, and kind of painting a portrait of these things. Point 2, discipleship doctrine and just ministry, potential transitional connectional mission. It would include but not be limited to encouraging growth in discipleship through small groups, proposing liturgies and orders of worship for use by both local congregations and the general church for general conference approval, resourcing understanding of our doctrines, and resourcing local churches and engaging with the church's social witness and social issues from a variety of political perspectives and from a biblical foundation. I don't know if such a group has been formed, but I would love for such a group to be in place. If they have put out any material, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I assume they probably haven't put anything. In my head, they've just got all this other stuff that they're doing. There's just things that are just kind of falling through the cracks, and this might be one of them. Which, understandable. If you've got a bunch of people that aren't necessarily being paid to do some of this, and they've got 1,000 other things that they're trying to get lined out, like legal status in other countries. Like, if it's not happening right now, I'm sure it'll happen once General Conference is set in stone.
Well, but the point to this section was this is what the TLC can do. TLC is not going to exist after the Convening Conference. So they just made leeway for them to do all this work.
If they had time for it, or they saw that it needed to be done right now.
Yeah. All right, so I looked up an email from Karen Nicholas she sent me. It has the list of all the transitional commissions that are in place. It has the list of members on there as well, and each committee has at least 10 people on there. I'm not going to show it to you. I didn't get permission from Kara to do that, but surely it's okay for me to share the names of the commissions. One is on evangelism, missions, and church planting. That's what we see at the top here.
One. Yeah.
All right. And then after that, we have discipleship doctrine and just ministry. Okay, so that's number 2. That has been in place. I don't know if it showed. The chair of that is Bob Kaler. I should probably know that name, but I don't. And then there were additional crews that were supposed to elect their chairs on January 8th. So a transitional commission on ministry. Okay, that's number 3. Then finance administration, pensions, and benefits. That's 5. Okay, so we don't have one for communications yet. Oh, but that's the final one there. She says there's a transitional commission on communications that had only 5 members at that point. So
you said they were supposed to elect their chairs on the 8th?
On January 8th, yeah.
Okay, so it's February 16th as of shooting this.
Yeah, so they've almost certainly been put in place. So they've moved forward on this.
So we've got all of those are covered then.
Okay.
So.
Well, let's learn about the one on ministry. It's for including but not limited to implementing the standards and qualifications set for various forms of ministry, developing curricula for ministry training courses, including course of study, resourcing annual conference boards of ministry, ensuring adequate psychological and background evaluation for candidates, establishing and refining criteria and qualifications for various forms of non-parish ministry, evaluating and approving training programs that meet the criteria and qualifications, examining and credentialing persons for various forms of non-parish ministry, and supporting persons engaging in non-parish ministry. Pretty broad. It obviously overlaps a lot of work that annual conferences are doing, so hopefully they're working out the give and take of that well. So anything else to say about that one?
I don't think so.
The Transitional Commission on Communications includes, but is not limited to, resourcing local churches, annual conferences, and the general church and communication strategy and implementation, creating print and digital resources that communicate the work of the church, publishing the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Disciplines, translating communications and resources into the languages of the church, and growing the digital communication capability of the church.
So this is the TLC level. The annual conferences. So in the UMC annual conferences had these, correct? Because So I
Yeah,
remember there was
yeah.
one specifically with the Oklahoma
Yeah.
annual conference that was just not fun to work with. It was
Yeah.
we're not going to give you any information. Well, so yeah, I asked for a recording of one of the live streams they put out, and I kept bugging the guy, like trying to like, hey, can I'm coming to Oklahoma City. Can we just put this on a flash drive? Like, you don't have to cut it up and send it to me. Trying to make it super easy. And he just eventually went to the DS and said, hey, this guy's bugging me. Get rid of him, essentially. And I'm like, really? That's something, it's that important? I was not impressed with him. It's, I guess what I'm getting at. So don't do that stuff if you're on this council. If we want something, if we need something that's not going to be like blatantly anti-GMC, then don't be like that.
This is just the cultural stuff that we're figuring out right now. Are communications people going to be gatekeepers and restricting information, or are they going to be empowering by making all information accessible, or how are they going to decide? I'm a purist with respect to transparency. I want a strong communications ministry just so that we can have good information shared out and about. But a lot of people want communications so that you can have like marketing. Here's the talking points we have. There's like a production element to it, and that's, I don't care so much. I mean, I like that stuff, but I think the more important thing is here's what's happening in all of our meetings. Here's everything going on at the top level of the GMC. Everybody can know. Everybody can participate.
Yeah, here's meeting minutes. We're sending it out. Not necessarily to everybody, but maybe clergy, like the pastors in the annual conference. I don't know, stuff like that. That makes sense.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about transparency a lot more, but let's go on to the finance, administration, pensions, and benefit, including but not limited to overseeing the financial and fiduciary life of the general church to ensure both its integrity and efficiency, reporting publicly the detailed expenses and income, conducting an annual independent audit, collecting and distributing all income received by the general church, managing the legal work of the general church, giving oversight to the pension and benefits, i.e. health insurance, disability, etc., programs for clergy and lay employees of the church worldwide, and encouraging conferences worldwide to provide adequate pension funding and medical care for those who serve in the church's ministry. So I have to say right here, I was wrong in saying that the Episcopal Task Force was part of this. It would seem that that's something else, or at least it wasn't made provision for in this part of the Transitional Book of Doctrines and Discipline.
I don't recall what the Episcopal Task Force was for.
It was for generating a recommendation for how it is that we're going to have bishops in this church to the convening conference.
That's their only job.
Yeah.
Okay. You thought it was part of the finance, I guess, administration. That makes.
I thought it was one of these transitional commissions under the TLC, but apparently it's just a task force that they commissioned, which they have the authority to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Point 6, transitional commissions may also be formed in other areas not named above and assigned responsibility to develop policies and programs related to these other areas. Okay, so I think that's an overlap with the Episcopal Task Force. I could be wrong. All right, let's power through and do paragraph 706, and that closes out this section.
Yeah, okay. 706, the Transitional Connectional Operating Officer.
That's got to be Keith Boyette's position.
Okay, that makes sense. The Transitional Connectional Operating Officer shall bear primary responsibility for the fruitful and accountable functioning of the general church and serve as its chief executive and administrative officer. That does sound like him. The Transitional Council Operating Officer.
Connectional.
It is a whole lot. Like,
just call him the TCO.
The TCO. Oh, no, that sounds weird.
The TCU.
Okay, shall be directly amenable to the Transitional Leadership Council. The Transitional Connectional Operating Officer shall assign staff to support and resource any general commission and provide oversight to all general church staff. Number 1, selection. The Transitional Connectional Operating Officer may be either a clergy or lay person and shall be selected by the Transitional Leadership Council by majority vote of the council. Term. Number 2. The Transitional Connectional Operating Officer serves at the pleasure of the Transitional Leadership Council or until the convening general conference adjourns and leadership for the season immediately after the convening general conference is selected. Okay, so surely that's going to continue after.
I don't know that it is sure. In fact, I
guess it would make sense if the TLC is continuing forward.
Yeah, but we don't.
No,
I think what this assumes is there are going to be boards and agencies that continue forward
that
and
take the place of of this guy and all of everybody else.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
3, responsibilities and duties. The responsibilities of the Transitional Connectional Operating Officer shall include the following. A, serve as the General Church's Chief Executive and Administrative Officer and oversee all connectional commissions and enterprises. B, oversee planning and research to advance and implement the mission and strategic plan of the church. C, serve as the staff person for the Transitional Leadership Council in assisting the council in all its work, but especially to provide a unified sense of vision and mission for all the work of the denomination. D, along with the Transitional Leadership Council, coordinate the ministries of the General Church to fulfill the mandates of the Book of Doctrines and Discipline and to implement the actions of the General Conference. E, review and evaluate the missional effectiveness of the transitional general commissions of the church, making recommendations to the council. F, in consultation with the Transitional Commission on Finance, Administration, Pensions, and Benefits, prepare the proposed connectional budget for the Transitional Leadership Council approval and, once approved, oversees its implementation, including but not limited to overseeing connectional finances and the maintenance of financial records. I feel sorry for Keith Boyette. It's a lot.
It is a lot. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, thank you. G, oversee yearly audits of connectional financial records. H, direct the development of policies and procedures to implement the provisions of the Book of Doctrines and Disciplines, including but not limited to personnel matters. I, direct and or oversee connectional communications, public relations, and marketing. J, serve as the chief spokesperson for the denomination to the extent authorized by the Transitional Leadership Council. K, with appropriate consultation, manage the process for and make the final decision on hiring, assigning, and retaining all general church staff, supervise and direct all general church staff, including performance reviews in consultation with the relevant commissions, recommend compensation levels for all program staff and for Transitional Leadership Council approval, and set compensation levels for all staff. All processes shall comply with the policies and procedures adopted by the Transitional Leadership Council.
Of course.
L, negotiate and or oversee negotiations of contracts for services including but not limited to facilities, connectional pensions, insurance, and other benefit programs with the approval of the relevant commissions. M, recommend to General Conference through the Connectional Councils changes to the Book of Doctrines and Disciplines and implementing legislation. And finally, N, carry out responsibilities and duties assigned by the General Conference and Connectional Council. I thought that was going to be everything else. You get to do these and then whatever else needs to come. So, Okay. That is part 7.
Yeah, we covered all of part 7 today. That was great. And I think you were right to point attention to the fact that Keith Boyette has a huge job, and he's doing a huge job. And we weren't joking when we said thank you. Thanks for Keith doing all this work. And, it's a hard decision to make if you want to continue to have one. I like the idea of having a central organizer of all the information to make sure it all fits together.
Right. Keith is one now he just replaced somebody, didn't he?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's always been Keith.
It's been Keith all the way along.
Oh, okay.
Keith has been, I've been reporting in the United Methodist Church realm on the protocol for separation that was drafted years ago. Keith sat on that board. He's been in conservative leadership for decades. I think he was head of the WCA, and then whenever the GMC was formed, he came over and Jay Therrell took over his position. That might have been what you were thinking.
That is what I was thinking, yeah. Jay's the one I was thinking about.
Yeah. So anyway, he's been working real hard, and I hope he retires after he gets everything running. I can't imagine how tired he is, but hey, if you got more steam burning, things are going pretty well. So it's been good leadership. Anything else you want to say before we close this out, TJ?
No, I don't think there was anything too controversial in that.
Okay. Next week we begin judicial administration. This is where the rubber hits the road. How are we going to the judiciary really failed the United Methodist Church in making the right calls and enforcing. I guess it was the bishops who should have enforced what they decided. But anyway, we're going to look at how justice is sought in the midst of dysfunction in the GMC. So join us next week. As always, if you enjoyed this, let us know in comments. We love nice comments, thoughtful comments. If you've got mean things to say, go ahead and email them to me at plainspokenpod@gmail.com. Just make sure that they're still helpful. And then, share this around with other global Methodists so that they know how the TLC and Keith's position and all these different bodies are supposed to work, how they can pray for it and support it, and what they can anticipate the transition looking like this September. So that'll conclude our project for today. We're going to go about our lives. We hope you do too. God bless you. We'll see you next week.